The dream, a succession of images, thoughts, or emotions passing through the mind during sleep. The dream is an eternal mystery as old as time, as old as civilization, as old as the conscious being. What did the first peoples dream about, and how did their dreams influence their daily lives? How did they interpret their dreams? Can the dream be a memory of the past? I decided to reach out to a fellow guru, a therapist, Pierre, to see what he had to say about it. How could he add to my growing body of knowledge of the dream world?
So my name is Pierre, and I am a BHM, which is a behavioral health manager. I am also a licensed associate marriage and family therapist, what we call LAMFT. Let's see, my areas of interest are spirituality, the esoteric, metaphysics, and essentially the spiritual, everything that makes us who we are outside of science. So my interest would be to bridge science and spirituality together to have a integrative healing model for therapy. So instead of just using scientifical-based evidence and scientifically empirical based evidence, I'm having a hard time with this, sorry. Also having spiritual interventions that can help transcend the physical to improve the healing methods that we have to these days, which I think are somewhat limited. So not all of them, there are some great ones. But
so what do you think that science has its idea of like the spiritual world, the spiritual realm? What does science say about it? Do they call that pseudoscience?
Well, yeah, they do call it pseudoscience. They call it, magic, which is not real. They'll call it a lot of different things. But the branch in between, it would be quantum physics, right? Quantum physics has a lot of magic, if I may say, and magic with a K, not with a C. Ultimately, you can't have spirituality without science, and you can't have science without spirituality. They go hand in hand. But the fact that we only explore one aspect of who we are is why we're where we are now. We had a world that was purely spiritual, and then we ended up with, inquisitions and a lot of other practices that essentially didn't do too well, right? And if you had a purely scientific world, it's where we are now, and again, it's not doing too well either, if that makes sense. So we need to bridge the two together to have a spiritually, scientifically advanced society where we use what we have and we just don't try to stray away from what we've been given. Because I think this is where a lot of civilizations that fail is trying to play God. Trying to go beyond what we're here to do.
What's the difference between magic with a C and magic with a K?
So magic with a C is what you would see in for example, Harry Potter. It's I have a wand and I create a spell, right? Magic with a K is a little bit more similar, but in the sense that there is a little bit of research behind it. So I'm not going to go too deep into it because I don't agree with a lot of it, but it would be the Golden Dawn and Manly P. Hall and, characters like that, or I can never remember his name, Tragedismus or something like that with, the magic squares and...
Is that, one of the things of Hermeticism? Right?
Yes, it is. So there's a lot of truth in it. Not with a capital T, with a small t, right? and if you read it, it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start getting into magic, you can gain power, right? And again, it all depends on what power means to you. You can manifest faster. You know, you can do things differently. You can play with reality a little bit, but there's a cost. There's always a cost, and sometimes not knowing what the cost is can be devastating.
So, like ideas like Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, like would that be with the K?
That would be with a K.
With the
Yeah.
K?
Yeah.
So, okay. That's interesting. Oh, I think it's Hermes Trismegistus, right?
Yes.
That's what it is. So what I've read is that has, I know this is going off topic, but like, I think I gotta get this out, but the rediscovery of Hermeticism influenced the Renaissance. And they called it the Renaissance Hermeticism, right? Mm-hmm. That brought forth new ideas, new innovation, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that some of that information could have been misunderstood? Because you refer to true.
Hidden.
Okay.
Hidden, not misunderstood. We were talking about that the other day with a friend. Think of the painting in the Sistine Chapel. I forgot the name of the painting. I'm sorry. You know, where man almost touches God. You know, you'll have the image of the figures.
Yes.
Yeah. If you observe the art for someone who is very earthy, if I may say, not necessarily materialistic, but earthy, they don't care, right? They don't care about art. For an artist, they will observe, they will see, you know, the painting, the details, and they will find it fascinating, right? For the mystique, for the esoteric, they will see that where God is, right? It looks like the brain. It looks exactly like the brain. And certain beings within, you know, will be very specific areas of the brain. And then they will see the space between, you know, God almost touching men. So man almost attaining the divine within, the brain, the mind within, right? And they'll think, oh, there's a space in between. So man isn't really touching God. Man is a little detached from God. Right? Mm-hmm. But if you think from a physical standpoint, nothing really touches, but everything is made of the same. So there is no space in between. It's one and the same, right? But if you don't have the keys, right? If you don't have the keys to essentially look past what you see, if you can't look through the veil, you won't be able to see the truth. And again, the truth with a small t, I don't think there are necessarily capital T truth. You know, there will be like laws, you know, physical laws, for example, or the fact that, you know, there is some people call it the grand architect, some people call it God, some people call it the energy, the all, right? That's a truth with a capital T because it makes everything. Even if you don't believe in anything, it's a paradox because you believe in something. There cannot be anything. Because if there wasn't anything, you wouldn't be it. You wouldn't be there, right? So everything and nothing is the same. It's one thing. So the point is, if you look at Renaissance, there is a lot of hidden meaning in the art. And they had to hide it in plain sight because otherwise they would get killed. Mm-hmm. You know, they would get shunned or whatever other words. But ultimately, if you know and learn how to read, right, the world within yourself and even outside, right, you will see a lot of truth that will make sense to you. Because sometimes you can read too much into it and you can see things that aren't there. But sometimes, again, just like with dreams, a dream is just a dream. Sometimes there are very specific symbology or symbols within the dream that are important to pay attention to.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that necessarily you need a third party to come in, like going to a therapist to interpret your dreams, or can one individual do it all by themselves?
They can, but it helps to have people act as mirrors to help you look at yourself in different lights, mm-hmm. right? For what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. Accountability. Accountability. When I am so, for lack of a better term, stuck in my own ways, I may not be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I may not be able to see the hidden meaning. I may be blinded by my own ego or by my own issues. So having a third person help you understand what you're going through could be extremely beneficial, right? If you talk to channelers or people that do tarot or people that do Reiki or people that do, a lot of the spiritual practices, right? It's harder to do it on yourself because you get in your own way. When you work on someone else or you help someone else understand their own reality, it's not you talking, it's the God within. And that's something that you learn when you provide a service. You don't get in the way. So me, myself, I, Pierre, will try to not get in the way when answering the questions, because otherwise everything will just be my interpretation. Now, when people hear what I talk about, it will be their interpretation, and they will think like, oh, it's just Pierre talking. Unbeknownst to them, it's not me talking. Now, what it's consciousness. Now, to make it make sense, we call it I. We'll say, well, sometimes it's the ego, sometimes it's the divine, sometimes it's whatever, right? But ultimately, to have truth or knowledge become channeled within, you have to make space. And sometimes making space is something that you do with a third person, because it's very hard to just do by yourself.
Mm-hmm. And channeling is one of the modes of dream interpretation.
Yeah, yes it is. And we all do it all the time, unbeknownst to us. I'm sure there are times where you've known things and you don't remember where you've learned them.
Yeah. Or
there you go.
Different times when you've just got a download of information and
yeah.
Wow.
That's channeling.
That's channeling?
Mm-hmm.